In an earlier segment, we asked what the meaning of truth is. We concluded that there are several different definitions of truth, both subjective and objective. Our aim is to develop an objectively true understanding of reality regarding mind and mental causation, in particular regarding that subset of mental events that are freely willed. In order to do that, we have to come up with a model of brain function underlying free choices that corresponds to how the brain really works. We can see that for science, the meaning of truth is tied up with what is real. But what's real? People have been struggling with that question for a very long time. So in our attempts to answer the question, what is real, we are left with the odd picture first portrayed in Plato's allegory of the cave and later elaborated by Immanuel Kant. All that we have access to and all that we can describe is the contents of our consciousness, and these contents presumably correspond to something about the events or objects in themselves, in reality in itself. Because many people can look at the same, say, red flower and have largely consistent experiences, it's not likely that everyone just happens to be hallucinating a red flower at the same time. That said, is the flower really red? Scientists largely agree that there is no redness out there in reality. Redness is a construction of our perceptual systems that exists in our conscious experience, but is not a property of reality in itself. What is presumably real are pigments in the surfaces of the flower in itself and the pigments we experience as red. But redness and those pigments seem to exist in two different domains. One, redness in consciousness, and the other, the pigments, in the world in itself, regardless of how it's being experienced or even whether it's being experienced. To drive this point home, look at this drawing. The color of the two patches, indicated with arrows, are identical in the image, but your conscious experience of them is radically different. But I can prove to you that they're identical in the image by cutting one side out and placing the two colors side by side. Now you can see that they are identical. But if I move the patch back to its original position, you can no longer see them as identical. Now they look as different in color as they originally did. Now I'll show you an even more dramatic example of this phenomenon. Let's consider this drawing by the Japanese scientist and artist Akihiro Kitaoka. The color of the irises of this girl are identical in the image, but they are radically different in your conscious experience of their colors. I can convince you that they are the same color by cutting them out and placing them side by side as before. I can even blow up the eyes so that you can see for yourself that their irises are the same color in the image. When I put everything back as before, again, you cannot help but see the girl's irises as radically different in color. This drives home the point that color is a property of our conscious experience that is constructed. We cannot experience the color values detected at the retina. Instead, we can only experience the color that is computed by operations that happen in the quarter to a third of a second between retinal activation by light and our conscious experience of what is presumed to be the case in reality, even though we can never step outside of our conscious experience to experience the world as it truly is. What we do have in addition to our senses is our capacity to reason. Using reason, however, our physical models of reality have started to paint a stranger and stranger picture of the nature of reality. Present claims from physics describe a strange reality radically unlike the world as it seems to us. This is a world in which a particle, seemingly located at a single position in space and time, also has the properties of a wave, which is extended in space and time. It's a reality where non-locality seems to hold, where two events, perhaps hundreds or thousands of light years apart, can be correlated in their behavior. It's a strange universe in which some kind of dark matter, which we cannot see or detect, is posited to exist and even be the most common kind of energy in the universe. Finally, none of our physical models, whether in physics or in neuroscience, has succeeded in giving a deep explanation of consciousness and its physical realization. So science has a long, long way to go. There are some things that we can be confident of, like that the heart has 4 chambers. Then there are a lot of things that we're not so sure of, like whether dark matter really exists. Then there are things we know that we don't yet know, like what the neural basis of consciousness is or what the neural code is. Then there are things that we don't even know yet that we don't know. And finally, there are things that may be, in principle, not knowable. For example, some ideas may be undefinable. What came before the beginning? that might not be a definable concept because it appears to involve a contradiction before the beginning. Similarly, the question, what caused the first cause, say the Big Bang, might not be answerable. We can add to the list of the unknowable the answer to the question, what lies outside of everything? This might not be definable because how can there be something that is not included in everything? The question, are there multiple universes or just one, might not be answerable. Should we give up? Not at all. Science has a lot to explain even if it cannot explain everything. Nonetheless, it seems reasonable to assume that there is a way that the world really is, independent of our experiences of it. The only problem is that all we have to go on are our experiences. The world as it really is may forever be beyond our ability to know, but using reason and our senses, we can go much farther than we have so far in our quest to understand the nature of reality.